life expectancy have been reduced after the flood?
A lot of people have some different theories about that because you're right. It dramatically reduces. It goes from people living over 900 years to where they're not living more than 120 years, right? So some of the theories that have been thrown around is one, it's a direct judgment of God, which we know that to be true because God said so, right? He does not want them living that long anymore because it's just a life of misery and they only bring evil into the world. But other people have said, it might have been dietary changes, opening up to carnivorous diets. What happened to the food supply because of the flood? Did something happen to it that changed their health? A change in atmospheric conditions, like we don't know what caused the flood. If it was a meteoric impact, maybe there's more metallic things in the air that we breathe that makes us unhealthy. The impact on immune systems is another one. So when you lose all genetic diversity, maybe the healthier immune systems that were around back then are they fall away, or just the fact that there was a genetic bottleneck in and of itself. Like if you go from having a great variety of people reproducing to bottlenecking at one man, you lose all that genetic diversity, which we know is going to bring life expectancy down. And beyond that, when Noah comes out of the ark, it's a brand new world to him. So like the explorers come over to the Americas and they bring death. Noah's walking into a new world, and who knows what humanity is going to find outside the ark.
If was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. Now, first, let's look at exactly what this man just uttered out of his mouth. The fact that he is claiming that the life expectancy of human beings went down to 120 years because this guy's judgment of flooding and murdering everyone. And the guy just decided to do this because every thought from man was evil, is what he said at the end of the flood. And so since life was so miserable, he was being kind to man and saying that, oh, I'm only going to let you live 120 years so you won't have all the misery. But here's the thing. Here's the actual aspect of it. And he had another video where he went into how all these other different cultures have these mythological stories concerning people living in these long periods of time, and how the king's list of the Sumerians have them living for tens of thousands of years, and all these other myths. And he calls them myths, but they are no more myths than the Bible is a myth. He says that it is a fact that man was only going to live 120 years because God decreed it. Yet right after the flood, you have people who were born decades, if not a century after the flood, who lived to be 147, 137. And these are the people of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, who all still live for more than 120 years. And so the idea that this guy said that man would be only 120 years, he didn't say it will ebb out to be 120 years. He said it will be 120 years. And we even see that people today live longer than 120 years. It's rare, but it does happen. Now, he goes into all these other theories of why people aren't able to live that long, and tries to add some type of science to it. But here's the thing that he's missing. No, not none, not nan one, you understand Georgia speak, not nan one of any scholar or scientist, any archaeologist, or anybody else would support the theory that man used to live 900 years, 500 years, 600 years, 10,000 years. Not nan one. Most, if not all, who deal with life expectancy recognize that the human body is designed to live for about 200 years in a perfect condition. In a perfect, that means perfect atmosphere, perfect health, perfect food, perfect water, everything perfect. About 200 years is how long the body should be able to live. Now, because of the air, the water, the food, and all these other things, man's bodies live a lot shorter, way shorter. But the life expectancy of man has been increasing in our age compared to what it was back in their day. Now, did people live to be 90 back in the times that they are claiming people like Abraham lived? Yes. But because of child mortality and women dying after birth, that shortened the mortality to around 30 to 40 years old. And then because of disease and war and lack of the same type of medical care that we have today and medical knowledge, they also did not live as long. This was a time frame where if you were injured, if you fell and you injured yourself, you had a higher probability of dying from not infestation. Uh, Dying from your what the damn infection. Thank you, Angelina. Dying from infections, uh, from where now we have antiseptics and antibodies that we can cure people from those sorts of things. So life expectancy has changed. There were people who did live into their 90s, but for the most part, they didn't. On the average, they didn't. Now, and to decree that people were living this long or this time was shortened because your God said so, no. That's same claim I can make based on the Sumerian story where Enlil sprayed something in the air. And what he sprayed in the air was supposed to cause man to only live 120 years. Or in the Ifa story, where something was placed in the water so that man was only going to live roughly around 120 years. Or I can go with Quetzalcoatl and the Aztec Mayan story, where something was placed in the air and the water, and man's life expectancy was reduced to about 120 years. This idea that man's life was reduced is a popular myth that's not only a Mediterranean myth, but is a worldwide myth of some god or being spraying something in the water or putting something in the water or spraying something in the air to cause man's life to be shortened. And then there are some stories that say that they did the similar things, not to shorten man's life expectancy, but to cause man to not have the level of intelligence that man used to have. So many of these stories are just that. They're stories, they're myth, they're not factual. You cannot prove your God caused this flood in the first place. Second, you cannot prove that your God determined the life expectancy of people. It's just a nice theory because the biggest fear of man is death. So once you overcome the fear of death, you've overcome man's greatest fear. And that's what you should do, because the fear of death is why many people are staying in these religions, because they are fearful of what happens to them after they die. Oh, am I going to go to hell? Nah, probably just going into oblivion, and there will just be non-existence. But y'all have a great day. And always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.